DC Multiverse!
Good day everybody, welcome back to my channel. I'm Brad the DC Nerdist Geek for those of you who may be new here, and today we're having a look at the McFarlane Toys DC Multiverse JLA wave of action figures, including Electric Blue Superman, an all-black Batman, Hook Hand Aquaman, and a not 1990s John Stewart Green Lantern. Each one of these action figures all come with a trading card. Of note, you'll notice that Superman's looks nothing like him. This is long mullet hair Superman in comparison to Electric Blue. Batman does kind of match his trading card in the fact that at least he's all black on the trading card. Nothing wrong with Aquaman's. It's a match for match pretty much. And John Stewart, there with that really weird wonky lantern symbol. Each figure also, except for Aquaman, comes with their own accessories. Electric Blue Superman comes with some reused electric parts that you can clip onto the body. Batman comes with a reused bat grapple, which we've seen multiple times before. And John Stewart comes with some reused energy constructs. Of course, each figure also comes with a part or parts to the collect-to-build Plastic Man. Superman comes with the torso, Batman comes with both of the heads and both of the wacky arms, Aquaman comes with the regular arms, and John Stewart comes with the legs. Put these bad boys all together and you get the fantastic, crazy, weird Plastic Man. This is a really cool looking figure. We're going to look at him up close in just a moment, but first, let's look at the four figures from the wave, Superman, Batman, Aquaman, and John Stewart first. And just as a bonus, we're also going to include the Platinum Edition Superman, Aquaman, and John Stewart in the video as well. So let's look at them all individually, first starting with Superman. So Supes is probably the simplest out of all four figures, being that he's just a completely blue body buck and then white paint deco all around that body. Nothing super difficult here, just blue with white paint deco. Still though, painted applied to the figure quite tidily. If this was an old DC Universe Classics, I'm sure there would have been a lot more paint slop than there is here, because, well, here there's none. Everything pretty much goes exactly where it's supposed to, so I gotta give some kudos to that. And the emblem on Soup's chest here is super crisp. This is nice and sharp. I like this very, very much. Folks with a keen eye will notice that this is very much a reused body buck from a previous Superman figure, only this one is wearing blue gloves and has a different head sculpt. And of course, has different feet. And in regards to that head sculpt, it looks really quite fantastic. The paint is where it's supposed to be, and you've got a separate piece glued to the top for the hair, which has a dark wash over top of it. Absolutely no complaints here whatsoever to do with his face. The paint looks fantastic. As far as articulation is concerned, I mean, you're going to see that he is way articulated as far as he's needed to be articulated. I mean, arms go up more than just a T-pose. You've got that socket there in the arm. You're going to have the double jointed biceps, double jointed elbows that crunch up just fine. Torso with a lot of articulation. Waist with a lot of articulation. Crunch down, swing back, side to side. This is a fantastically articulated Superman. Even up here, the thigh cut appropriation, even that looks to be satisfactory. You've got double jointed knees that crunch up and the legs go up about that high. And you have the shaped rounded hinge down here in the ankle with the pivot here like this and the toe crunch. And everything that I said for the blue can be said about the red, because they're exactly the same, just a big red figure with white deco on him to give him that same look that the previous one has. Fan-friggin-tastic though. Everything is crisp and nice and sharp. And just as with the first one, the head sculpt on this is fantastic. I mean, it's the same head sculpt, but the paint applications look really, really nice. The eyes are crisp. There's really nothing I can say about either of these figures that I don't like. I like both of these figures very much. And they look really good next to each other. The blue and the red. If you're posing and displaying these guys side by side, You're visually in for a real treat. Okay, and now that we've looked at Superman, why don't we have a look at Batman? Which is, if I'm being honest, a complete reuse of the Batman 3 Jokers version of this character. An entire reuse, except for it's all in black. Well, except for the blue highlights on the boots, on the gauntlets here, on the head, and also down here on the cape. This is just all black. And if I'm being honest, this is probably the one figure, if this wave did not come with the pieces for the collect-to-build Plastic Man, I would have probably skipped. And I think it would have been much cooler had they have incorporated the release of the black and gray Nightfall Batman into this wave, because then you would have gotten a figure that I think a lot more people would have really wanted with those Plastic Man parts that probably would have looked better alongside this wave of figures. I realize this is all just my opinion, because for some of you, this black Batman is your jam and you love it very much, and that's totally cool. I just personally would have liked to see a different Batman used in this wave rather than this black one. I mean, yes, the black does match the trading card. This is a black Batman on the trading card. However, this is not generally how he looked during this time period of the Justice League. And because we all know what this figure is like and what it can do, those of us who own it, we know what the articulation's like. It's, as far as the ab crunch goes, if you remember, it's kind of abysmal. It doesn't really do much of anything, but everywhere else it's pretty darn good. I'm gonna skip really talking about this guy anymore and just move on to the next one, which will be Aquaman, who looks friggin' awesome. You've got the silver up here for his armor, you've got his hook hand, you've got the green along the sides of his pants, and you have this fantastic head sculpt here. This is a brand new head sculpt. This is not the same one he had before. We can look up close and we can tell. It's not just the fact that the eyes are painted on straight and it's been molded in a different color. This is a different head sculpt. Side by side, we can see here, I'm correct. It's a different head sculpt. It is not the same. And I am loving it. This looks friggin' cool. This looks perfect. The hair is a reuse, I believe. The hair looks like the exact same hair that they've attached to this head sculpt, and that's perfectly fine. I always thought that the hair looked actually okay, so there's no complaints there whatsoever. I like the fact that Aquaman's armor looks all dinged up like he's seen some battle while wearing this stuff. And it goes around the back there, it looks just the same. It would have been cool if this was actually sculpted down the side rather than just painted. I feel like that is something that could have made this like a grade A figure rather than, an A- or like a B+. If you're looking at his harpoon wondering if it can move at all, it actually can. The harpoon can rotate on his hand here for better posability. And the figure itself is actually really, really, really posable. Like this is fantastic. No complaints whatsoever. Only good things to say about how posable, how much I can crunch this guy up and bend him all around. I will say that the fins on his legs right here do kind of get in the way of that, the crunch of his double jointed knees, but in the end, reality, this is still very, very good. This is fantastic. He's super posable. Woo! The Platinum Edition looks very much the same, only it does differ in a few ways. For one, Aquaman's armor is actually black. It's not that shiny silver, and the sides of his legs... Let's try that again. And the sides of his legs are actually a much, much brighter green. I kind of like that bright fluorescent green on the side of his legs. Not so keen on the darker black for the armor. I know for some people that's going to be their jam. For me, I do like the silver rather than the black. Other than that, we are looking at exactly the same figure and 100% the same sculpt. If this is more your jam, then this is what this bad boy looks like. And now let's move on to John Stewart Green Lantern. You can never have enough John Stewarts. And I like this figure. I'm conflicted on why it's in the wave. Because he was not in the Justice League at this time. It was Kyle Rayner, which makes me think, you remember that Kyle Rayner Kilowog 2-pack? Well, they could have put Kyle Rayner in this wave, and they could have opened up that slot to put someone else in the Kilowog 2-pack. This is definitely the look of, you know, a 70s and 80s John Stewart, with the full suit, the full body suit that comes down and doesn't just end at the waist. And then you've got the symbol right here on his chest looking really strange. I mean, I've seen this before, and it really just looked like the artist didn't know what he was drawing when he drew the symbol to look like this. It was just like, let's draw something stylized and kind of different. And that was sort of it. And it translated onto the figure. And it's not ugly, but when I look at this, I don't think Green Lantern. I think, I don't know. The artist was drunk that day when he went into work. He does have that sweater texture all over him. Ooh, I didn't notice that. This is strange. The back's supposed to be green. What's going on here? Why is the back black? This doesn't really match. I'm not gonna lie. But we've seen this before. We've seen this body before, so there's nothing really new here to chat about, except for John Stewart's face sculpt, which does look, actually, very, very cool. Let's see if we can get a better shot of it here. Yeah, that is very, very cool. That looks exactly like he looked back in the day in the comic books. I really like this. The longer I look at this, the more I think that they just knocked it out of the park with this. No complaints whatsoever. The paint applications look fantastic. The hair, which is a separate molded piece on top, also looks very good. This is fantastic. If I'm being honest, this is the version that I'm more excited about. This is the mosaic version of John Stewart, and I like this suit better than the previous one. And this actually is what he looked like in the early 90s. This is accurate to what he wore back then. So I don't really have any complaints about this one. I think that this looks fantastic. Love the lantern symbol on the chest, and I love how back then with their design they incorporated it right into the actual suit rather than it just being inside of a circle. I think that that works out really, really well. And just overall, it's a fantastic looking figure, and it's definitely my favorite out of the two. I definitely like this one better. I might actually turn this one into a classic Hal Jordan or something like that. I'm not entirely sure. But this one, well, he's definitely earned a place on my shelf, for sure. So what do I think about this wave of McFarlane Toys DC Multiverse action figures? Well, for the most part, I think it's fantastic. I really like the Aquaman, the Superman, and the Plastic Man. And I even like the John Stewart. The only figure that I kind of wish wasn't in the wave was Batman. I keep going back to the thought that I really wish that it was a white lenses, shiny suit Wally West Flash that took his place instead. And again, I do think that John Stewart is an odd choice to be in this wave of figures, considering Kyle Rayner was the Green Lantern of this time period. Plastic Man and Superman are my standout figures. Aquaman is definitely a must-have. Anyway, so if you see these guys hanging on the pegs, floating around, looking bored, loitering around in the toy aisle, just toss them in your cart, because I really like this wave, and I feel like it's worth purchasing, worth owning, worth adding to your collection. But that's all from me for now. Thank you so much for watching, and I really, really appreciate it. I'll see you with the next one, Super Friends. Take care. Bye-bye.